On September 14, 1901, Theodore Roosevelt, at the age of 42, became the youngest president in U.S. history following the assassination of President William McKinley. Roosevelt's ascension to the presidency marked the beginning of a new era in American politics, characterized by a series of bold progressive reforms aimed at addressing the social, economic, and political challenges of the time. This narrative explores Roosevelt's rise to the presidency, his vision for America, and the progressive reforms that defined his legacy and transformed the nation.
Theodore Roosevelt was born on October 27, 1858, in New York City, into a wealthy and influential family. Despite his privileged upbringing, Roosevelt was a sickly child, suffering from asthma and other ailments. Determined to overcome his physical weaknesses, he embraced a vigorous lifestyle of outdoor activities, which shaped his robust and energetic persona in adulthood. Roosevelt's early career was marked by a diverse array of roles, including service in the New York State Assembly, as a police commissioner in New York City, and as Assistant Secretary of the Navy. He gained national fame as the leader of the Rough Riders during the Spanish-American War, where his bravery in battle propelled him to the governorship of New York. In 1900, he was selected as William McKinley's running mate, and they won the election by a landslide. However, Roosevelt's vice presidency would be short-lived as tragedy struck less than a year into his term.
On September 6, 1901, President William McKinley was shot by an anarchist, Leon Czolgosz, while attending the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. McKinley succumbed to his wounds 8 days later, thrusting Theodore Roosevelt into the presidency. As the nation mourned the loss of McKinley, Roosevelt faced the daunting task of leading a country still grappling with the rapid changes brought about by industrialization, urbanization, and economic inequality. At the time of Roosevelt's ascension to the presidency, the United States was a nation of stark contrasts. The Gilded Age had produced vast wealth for industrialists and financiers, while the majority of Americans faced poor working conditions, low wages, and limited opportunities. Corruption was rampant in government, and powerful trusts and monopolies dominated entire sectors of the economy, stifling competition and exploiting consumers and workers. Roosevelt recognized that these problems required bold and decisive action. He saw the presidency as a bully pulpit, a powerful platform from which he could advocate for reforms and rally public support for his progressive agenda. However, he also knew that he would face significant opposition from the entrenched interests that benefited from the status quo.
Upon assuming the presidency, Roosevelt quickly set about implementing his vision for a square deal, a series of progressive reforms aimed at promoting fairness, protecting consumers, and curbing the excesses of corporate power. He believed that the government had a responsibility to ensure that all Americans, regardless of their social or economic status, had a fair opportunity to succeed. One of Roosevelt's first major actions as president was to take on the powerful trusts that dominated the American economy. In 1902, he initiated a lawsuit against the Northern Securities Company, a massive railroad monopoly controlled by financier J.P. Morgan. Roosevelt's administration argued that the company violated the Sherman Antitrust Act, which was designed to prevent monopolistic practices. The Supreme Court ultimately sided with the government, ordering the dissolution of Northern Securities in 1904. This victory established Roosevelt as a trustbuster and signaled his willingness to challenge the power of big business. Roosevelt's commitment to progressive reform extended beyond antitrust action. He was also a champion of labor rights and believed that workers deserved fair treatment and decent working conditions. In 1902, he intervened in the anthracite coal strike, a labor dispute that threatened to cripple the nation's coal supply. Rather than siding with the mine owners as previous presidents had done, Roosevelt invited both sides to the White House to negotiate a settlement. His mediation efforts resulted in a compromise that improved wages and working conditions for the miners, while ensuring a steady supply of coal for the country. Roosevelt's progressive agenda also included significant efforts to protect consumers and public health. The publication of Upton Sinclair's novel The Jungle in 1906, which exposed the appalling conditions in the meatpacking industry, spurred Roosevelt to push for the passage of the Pure Food and Drug Act and the Meat Inspection Act. These landmark laws established federal standards for food and drug safety, helping to protect consumers from harmful and unsanitary products. Roosevelt was also a passionate conservationist, recognizing the need to preserve the nation's natural resources for future generations. During his presidency, he established the United States Forest Service, created 5 national parks, and signed into law the Antiquities Act, which allowed him to designate national monuments. Roosevelt's conservation efforts resulted in the protection of over 230 million acres of public land, laying the foundation for America's national park system.
Theodore Roosevelt's presidency marked a significant turning point in American history, as he used the power of the federal government to address the social, economic, and environmental challenges of the early 20th century. His progressive reforms helped to curb the excesses of industrial capitalism, protect consumers and workers, and preserve the nation's natural heritage. Roosevelt's legacy as a progressive reformer and conservationist endures to this day. His belief in the government's responsibility to promote the common good and protect the public interest influenced subsequent generations of leaders and helped shape the modern American state. Roosevelt's Square Deal laid the groundwork for the New Deal of Franklin D. Roosevelt and the Great Society of Lyndon B. Johnson, both of which expanded the role of government in addressing social and economic issues. Moreover, Roosevelt's vision of the presidency as a bully pulpit transformed the office, setting a new standard for presidential leadership. He demonstrated that the president could be a powerful advocate for change, using the authority of the office to drive reform and mobilize public support. Today, Theodore Roosevelt is remembered as one of America's greatest presidents, a leader who embraced progress and challenged the nation to live up to its ideals of fairness, justice, and stewardship of the land. His progressive reforms left an indelible mark on American society, helping to create a more equitable and just nation.
Theodore Roosevelt's ascent to the presidency and his subsequent progressive reforms marked a new era in American politics. His leadership during a time of rapid social and economic change helped to address the inequities of the Gilded Age and set the stage for future reforms. As we reflect on Roosevelt's legacy, we are reminded of the power of bold, principled leadership in shaping the course of history and improving the lives of ordinary people. Roosevelt's presidency remains a powerful example of how one leader's vision and determination can transform a nation.